Hello, guys. Welcome again to another Monday evening. Yes, we are back again for you for the Authentic Leadership One-on-One. Yes, and school is still in session, but tonight we got a treat for you guys. Me and Tracy has devised this treat for this being the last Monday in the month of October. We've got a Q&A plan for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about turning values into leadership, and we're going to see where that goes with you and your platform, whether you are a leader, whether you want to be a leader, whether you're aspiring to be an authentic leader, whether you just want to be more authentic in your leadership in your home, in your business life, in your work life, however it wants to be. But we're going to take a lot of questions tonight, preferably from the audience and you guys that have joined us. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we are here for you. So again, I don't do this by myself. I got to bring my wonderful co-host on, the wonderful Tracy Borreson. Hello, Tracy. How are you?
Hello, Carlton. I am great, and I feel like my shirt matches our colors
Yes,
today.
yes, we're more closely in line, right? It's a little bit. Well, it was cold yesterday. Then it was cold this morning, and then for some reason or other, the temperature hopped up to like 70. And I'm like, come on, I got a sweater on today and a mock turtleneck. Come on, like out of all the days, you pick this to go back and forth with the weather. But my mom always told me that when the seasons change your clothes and don't change back. She said that's how you keep from getting sick. Older people and their little remedies, right?
Yeah.
So when the season came in, I put all my sweaters out, put all my short sleeve shirts up and all of that. So I got my sweaters out now. So hopefully it won't get 80 degrees on me for the next week because I'll be in
See,
trouble.
and I'm Canadian, so we just layer, layer,
Yes,
layer, layer, layer,
yes.
layer.
You gotta just layer because you,
We'll
you
wear
never know
five
what that.
layers, so just in case it gets warm later, it'll still be fine.
Yes, just in case, right? Just in case. All right. So we're talking about Q&A today. We're talking about questions and we're talking about turning your values. I know we talk a lot about the values of leadership and authentic leadership. So we're going to be turning it into leadership action and how we can get those values to align with the action that you need to take with being an authentic leader. How you can see that manifest over your process and how you can see that kind of like manifest within you as far as being a leader or as far as being in the leadership role because we all know that leadership does not have to be a title. So you don't have to be a leader. It does not have to be on your desk, your office. You could be a leader in just your actions. And we're going to turn some of those values into leadership action. Yeah.
Yeah, we are. And so, you guys, first of all, if you're watching us live, say hello. We are here to
Yes.
have a conversation with you guys today about turning your values into leadership actions. So, this is one of the really important pieces of authentic leadership that might not be
Yeah.
talked about as much in other styles of leadership or other leadership conversations. It's about your values. So being
Mhm.
authentic is about being true to you. It's not trying to be something because someone else says you should, or your corporate working environment says you should, or the Forbes list of whatever told you you should. It's about tapping into those things that are most important for you and
Yeah.
creating steps for those to live in your leadership action. So it's very much related to you guys and your values. Here's the
Yes.
tricky bit is that not everybody does a deep dive into their values. And so that's the one of the really important places to start with this conversation today. And again, poke guys, get in the chat because this is about us having a conversation about values. So
Yes.
I want to for those of you, one, if you have done values work and you know what your core value or some of your top values are, please share them in the chat because that'll give us a good starting point to have a conversation around how to turn those into actions. For those of you
Absolutely.
who have not investigated their values before today, we're gonna do some. And this is helpful for everybody who has their values as well, because one of the things that my good friend Lindsay Harlkadatz always says, and you guys, if you don't know her and you're interested in values work, you should follow her on LinkedIn. She runs a workshop called Voracious Values, and it's one of the best things that I have seen that can help you get clarity on what your values are, so you can turn them into other actions and leadership styles and all those good things. But one of the things that she says is that values, like authenticity, is values in action. So it's your values, the actions that you take show your values, and you can tell that they are aligned, right? So if you don't know what they are, then you can't on purpose create your actions that way.
No.
The fun fact about this is, even if you're not totally familiar with what your values are, you have them. Yes. And they're already influencing your actions. So it's not like we're going to learn these magical things about ourselves and all of a sudden we're going to show up completely differently as a human because now I'm taking different actions. No, just right now, the actions you're taking are by default and they're fed by your values. And in the future, you can take actions that are intentional and fed by your values. So that's the difference that we're creating here. So Shawn, I don't know how many people are watching live, but we're going to start with an exercise. You guys ready for an exercise?
I love exercise.
Get that blood flowing.
Get the blood flowing.
Okay. To me, there are two easy places to look for your values. The first place is, where do you find, in what situations, in what type of, surrounded by what type of people, do you find yourself in flow, aligned, feeling good, however you want to describe it. Everybody has their own way of describing this as well, you guys. So I don't want you to use my words, but those times where you're feeling like totally yourself and you're just like, this just feels so good right now. Think about some of those times. And sometimes it's hard because we're not always very good at stopping and taking a minute to realize that we're like, that just feels totally aligned with who I am. Maybe it was a business decision that you made. Maybe it was a presentation that you did. Maybe it was a conversation that you had with another person. Maybe it was that quiet moment you took sitting with your coffee, looking out the window and just people watching, right? Like, there's lots of different times where these things can happen. And so if you guys can think of a moment like that, please share it in the chat. Shawn, can you think of a moment like that?
I think the most of the times that I think of moments like that is when I'm in my comfort zone. And my comfort zone is very wide because a lot of people have comfort zones because I've pushed my uncomfortability out wide. So if you can kind of vision that, most people will like stay, what they would say, like stay in your lane. I have multiple lanes and I've gotten comfortable with coming out of a lane that I am comfortable in to adjust to a lane that I'm not. So with that being said, hello, Gabe. Hey, buddy, thanks for showing up. With that being said, me being comfortable is pretty much goes into what I enjoy. And when I'm in the enjoyment of that, that makes me be able to do actions or be more actionable, especially when it comes to the leadership genre, because I see my perspective of leading as, I wouldn't necessarily say revolutionary because there's people that think like I think, but what I do see it is just not in the traditional of how we've valued or how we've even viewed leadership and what we have done in comparison to that. So when I'm turning my values into those actions, it's really it's really a comfortable place for me because I'm already being real who I am. So my actions just kind of like match my values, and therefore with my actions matching my values, the end of the equation is it comes out in my actions, right? Or at least that's how it should be. So that's how I equate to how I turn that into that, and I make those all comfortable situations with my acting in those situations. So, and I'm a rare breed, so a lot of the things that I may say they might not correlate with how people think, because a lot of things don't jar me in the essence of that. Because when you think about people, turning their values into their actions, you rarely see that. And I can say that with a surety.
Mhm.
I don't have a number. I don't say like 95% or 90%. But you rarely see people where their values are really equaling out to how they are in their actions. Now they'll be appalled by things that's done and it's not part of their, their values, or it's not
Mhm.
something that, that's in their value system. But what you won't see is them acting out in that. Let's just take it for example. You at work, and so I think I used the example last week we were on. We talk about the Joni at work, and then Joni at the Christmas party. Then
Mhm.
Joni, Joni may have set values that encompasses who she is, but her actions in those separate situations, you'll never know because they don't
Mhm.
denote, they're not out there, they're not exposed. So if I'm coming to you and I'm coming across as, okay, this is how I feel about this. When you see me in the morning, and if you see me on lunch break, or if you see me maybe at the grocery market, or you see me somewhere else, and you see me still in that, then people know that my actions are actually conveying what my values are. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Yeah, they struggle with that.
I think this is really interesting, and I think I want to talk about comfort zones for a minute.
Um,
Because
comfort
I
zone.
think it ties into Gabe's question, but I also hmm, I am of
Da,
two
da, da,
minds.
da.
I'm of two minds when it
Two
comes to comfort
minds, two
zones.
minds. So we got four
Um,
minds, guys, because
oh
I
my
got two
gosh,
minds.
there's so many brains right now. So here's the thing: I do believe, you guys, that there's no growth in the comfort zone, and there's no comfort in the growth zone. This is something that I
Ah,
truly believe. I
ding.
also believe that there are a lot of people who show up as not who they are because they think they have to go outside of their comfort zone. So, going outside of your comfort zone is not inherently bad. It is inherently important for growth. And we're talking about leadership too. So, you're not going to grow as a leader if you don't go outside your comfort zone. But at the same time, there's directions, there's actions that are outside of your comfort zone that are also not aligned with you as a person. And this is one of the things that makes me like super angry in the coaching arena,
Mm.
especially in like business coaching, when people or marketing. My background is marketing, and this is like specifically bad in sales and marketing coaching, is that people just tell you you have to get outside of your comfort zone, and you don't like making cold calls, and you just have to make cold calls. And you guys, we've talked about this for the last 2 weeks as well. An action by default doesn't have to push, isn't meant to push me outside of who I am. Right? This is when we talk about being an authentic leader. Yeah, take a thing. If you're like, you know what, I think it would be more authentic for me to show up today and respond, I'm not fine, when someone asks me how I am, because I'm not fine. And that would be me being honest that I'm not fine, right? That's authentic. Showing up and I like to use this example because I feel like the difference between me and Donald Trump is like pretty substantial.
Yeah.
If I showed up today like Donald Trump, that would just be me faking it. That would be me fake. That's not a step forward in authenticity. And so when we look at things from the comfort level perspective, there's growth because it's growth, but there should inherently be a level of comfort in that you're being who you are. You know that action you're taking is reflecting your value. So maybe we talk about video a lot here too, because I think that's another common one where people are just like, "Ooh, I'm afraid to do video," or public speaking is another one, right? So those things are skills. They're things you get good at because you do them more.
Yeah.
Nobody was born the world's best public speaker. I think that's just not a thing. Or no one's born good at video, although kids nowadays with technology. But there's a way for me to authentically do video based on my values, right? So it's not just that doing video is outside of your comfort zone. It's probably because someone told you a way to do that, and that isn't aligned with your values. So I don't want you guys to take away from this session that I should just get out of my comfort zone because that is how I grow as a leader. It's not just that. Yes, growth comes outside of your comfort zone, and being authentic, living these values is also important, and then should inherently give you at least the smallest bit of comfort in that, like, well, I know I'm going to show up and I'm going to be myself. And if I screw up the technology, then I screw up the technology. And it, like, 90% of people have screwed up in technology in a public forum, right? Like, it's fine. It's just, that's part of being human. So I just, you guys can probably hear I'm of two minds on that. Like, I believe in growth. I believe in pushing outside of your comfort zone, but there's things that you would do outside of your comfort zone that are not aligned with who you are. And that's not the direction outside of your comfort zone you should go, right? So here's your comfort zone. You could go in, like, where I'm all flipped. You could go in 100 different directions, a million different directions, infinite different directions. There's a direction that's right for Tracy. So I want to grow outside of that comfort zone, but I want to actually go in, like, one direction, right? Like, I'm going in the Tracy direction. If I try and grow in the Shawn direction, it's going to feel inauthentic because it is. So I wanted to talk about that because I also think it plays into Gabe's question about what are some of the things you do to challenge yourself as a leader, right? Like, there's things that you will do to challenge yourself as a leader, and I want them to be in alignment with your values, with your personal brand, right? So there's different things that Shawn's going to do to challenge himself as a leader, then I'm going to do to challenge myself as a leader, then Gabe is going to do to challenge himself as a leader, to fill in the gap with your name. It's going to do to challenge yourself as a leader. And sorry, go ahead, Shawn.
No, I was just saying, and in the essence of that, and you hit the nail right on the head. Some of the things that you do to challenge yourself as a leader is just that key operative word being yourself. I take challenges on myself of things that I'm weak in, and that automatically strengthens the hole in my, or the chinks in my armor, so to speak. So if there's things that I'm weak in, or I'm not as, maybe even just, I wouldn't even say weak, maybe I'm just not indecisive in things that I'm a little fearful of as far as messing up, making mistakes, I tend to gravitate toward those things, but not for perfection, but for the simple fact that I want to get some comfortability with doing those things. And when they come out of the realm of those, if we find ourselves starting to do that, because I think a lot of people take on the options of the leadership as, okay, I think we've covered this before as well, but it's also denotes, it's worth repeating that the leadership takes on this connotation that I have all answers. Now, when you say that, a lot of people say, no, I know leaders don't have all the answers. Yes, you may know that. You may know that mentally. You understand that. But when people are in leaderships, it's automatically goes with the blanket of, or so they put their blanket of, okay, well, I got to know what to do. I have to know what's going on. I'm leading people. And you start compounding all these things. And to me, I always say that you create an unnecessary evil, because what you do at that point in time, you start to take on all of the things that drive you. They don't drive the leadership. So that drive leadership, I'm sorry, don't drive you. So when you look at where you are, what challenge you, the things that you're not comfortable with, the things that you're not as apt to do versus those things you do. Because we all have those comfort zones, and Tracy made a good point talking about the comfort zones. The comfort zones is not to push you out past what you are capable of. The comfortable zone is to push you out past what you're capable of thinking you are capable of. Because a lot of times we get in the comfortable zone and our mind only tells us that this is where I can go. But without that push, without that motivation, without that unction, or without those kind of things that press you out, you don't really know what you're capable of. And I think I mentioned this before as far as the mind. We have no really idea the capacity of the mind, just different ones use it at different times with different peaks and different valleys. Yes, valleys come into play there too. All of us, we don't use it, in the perspective that it should be used. But we have to get the understanding that the challenge comes with pushing yourself out of that zone where it becomes part of your zone. So if you're pushing yourself out of the comfort zone, you just look at it and say you're comfortable within the four walls of your home. Okay, so you never go shopping, you never go doing other things, you never go engage with other people, you don't, figure out more dialect, you don't educate yourself more, you don't read more, you don't be able to articulate more. When you see those things, even those that you figure that goes to school. Now I'm in law school now. So there are certain things that I knew in college, they don't really apply to law school. There's a difference, there's an understanding, there's an education that takes place upon the education I got. So what does that does for me? Oh man, me as an old man, it pushes me. So yeah, I had to burn the midnight oil. And those things are just challenging. Some things where I used to read and I can pick that up. Now I got to read paragraphs and books maybe a couple times to really get what it says. And these are the things that challenge yourself as a leader, because when you go about that, you'll realize that I'm shortchanged in particular areas. And with that short change, you'll build up yourself so you can be more reliable, more dependable, and actually more relatable to those who you're going to be leading to. And that's really the objectivity of you being a leader. It's not so much as you taking all the weight. What it is that you're understanding who in your team can carry weight. Because a lot of times we put a lot of things on us that's unnecessary. We don't have the power of delegation or understanding who can handle what things. So leadership encompasses a lot. And when you challenge yourself as leaders, those are some of the things that you could put as your check marks to let you know where you're going with that. That was a great question, Gabe. Appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah. And one of the other things I'll share on that too, Gabe, is so for me personally, my core value is authenticity. And so as a leader, I continually look at how can I be more authentic with my actions. So I'm practicing when someone asks me how I am and I'm not fine, saying not fine, because quite honestly, the first time I said that was the scariest thing ever. Because I'm like, what is this person going to think? And it's been like just amazing because people in general, especially the type of people who are here surround themselves with, are supportive people, right? So you're not fine. They want to help you. And then all of a sudden you get a whole bunch of help that can actually help you. And so and if you guys like this, and I'm sharing from my personal experience right now. And if you guys like any of it and want to try it in your experience, please feel free to do so. And just remember that this is something that works for me. And if it doesn't work for you, we're not the same person. So there's not something wrong with you or anything. There's other things that you can try, and I'd be happy to talk about it with anybody. I just always frame that because I'm petrified of someone just like trying to be me. And that's exactly the opposite of the conversation we're trying to have. But I have created a personal KPI of myself for authenticity. And there's 2 metrics that I track. One of them being how authentic, what percentage of my day did I show up authentically? So if I was feeling sad, did I show up as sad? If I was feeling happy and joyful, and I can like hear my son giggling in the background. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's just like, it's so fun. And we were at the park and we were running around and he was throwing rocks and it was just like fun. Right. And so when I'm having fun, do I show up like I'm having fun? Right. So that's what I measure for myself. And the other metric that I measure is how often can I create a space where other people can be authentic, which is one of the things that we're doing with this episode today. And it's one of the things that I do when I show up on LinkedIn. That's the thing I do. How can I help create a space where someone else can feel more authentic today? That's how I do it. So that's for me, specifically for me as a leader, because that's the value that's the most important for me as a leader. That's a thing that I focus on creating for myself and creating for other people. So that's just an example to answer Gabe's first question as well.
Yeah.
All right, Carl Shawn, do we want to go to Gabe's second question? I think you got
yes. Yeah, go down here to Gabe. Gabe says, how do you teach someone who possess leadership qualities, but maybe need guidance to grow into their potential?
You want to go first, Carl Shawn, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, I think about it's a couple of things, and I guess it's the way that you phrase this and the way that I look at it, Gabe, and you can also respond and let me know if I'm on the right path with this as well. When you saying what threw me, me being a wordsmith, sometimes words get in my way. When you saying teach someone, well, if you're teaching someone who already possesses leadership qualities, And when you're saying that, it's a dichotomy of speaking, and you're saying you're teaching someone who already have the qualities that you need. They already possess those leadership qualities, but they need guidance to grow in their potential. Um, a lot of times that guidance comes from them, their interactions, their leadings, and this is based upon not so much as what I've seen, and I mean not so much as what I can say as far as myself, because I have leadership qualities, but I never had anyone teach me how to be guided in that. I kind of like took a observation point, and at points in times when it was maybe not the right time for me, I interjected and I put myself in situations where my leadership qualities would shine. And I guess that's an action that in action was my education, and that was my guidance. But when you want someone to grow into their potentials, a lot of times we get the mentors. I do a lot of mentoring, and I take it on. You can see that someone shines with those characteristics or those qualities that you're looking for in leadership. But I also say that leadership can't be taught, and some may differ from me, or some may say, "Man, what are you talking about? Man, you can teach leadership." I think the true innateness of a leader is already there, and I think what you're saying is they possessing that, but the guidance to that. Most leaders find that guidance. And yeah, I know I'm probably going to stir the pot up real good with this one. Most leaders find that guidance that grows their potentials, because by them having those qualities, they put their place in. And I can just use me as an example. I put myself in positions and places of where I can grow. And I know that enhancements of those growths are going to help my potential. And therefore, that brings about me as a potential leader that can help others. Because a lot of times we don't share what we know. So a lot of time leaders, if you got those qualities, 9 times out of 10, especially in the corporate America today, you're not going to get that guidance. You're not going to get the one that, that's going to give you all that they know, so you can add that to what you know, and that you can grow into your potential. A lot of times, even if you're just training someone for a job, or you're training someone to take over a position, or someone's getting elevated in a position, 9 times out of 10, it's just tricks of the trade. I'm not going to teach them everything I know, because the selfishness of people come in. So you really don't get the guidance that you need to grow into your potential. That's why I've always looked at it and say, if I were to grow in this, I have to apply myself to this. The application is the key. So if I've applied my qualities and I've applied my leadership, the guidance and the growth will come. But I think leadership and growing in that it all, and Tracy may have a different opinion as well as that. I think the guidance it not necessarily come from that. The growth come from you being applying. Because I think application is key. And I think that a lot of time leaders don't do that. And this is where we fail people. They don't apply the leadership to the situations, to the people, to the circumstances. And in that, people don't grow, they don't develop, they don't learn. And those are the things that keep us stagnant. But Trace, you may have another take on that. I know I stirred the pot up with that a little bit.
I have many things to say, but I always have many things to say. Okay, there's two critical parts of this question that I want to discuss. The first part is the definition of leadership qualities.
Leadership qualities.
I think a lot of times people assume that leadership qualities are leadership skills. And leadership skills are things like communication, negotiation, management, coordination, right? Like there's a lot of those skills that people have, and they get interpreted as leadership qualities. The second part of this question is their potential. So here's the crux of leadership qualities, is that a lot of times, again, if you go back to my reference to like the Forbes list, right? Forbes top 28 things, top 28 leadership qualities, leadership traits, leadership, whatever, right? Like this is someone else telling you these are the skills you should have to get to where I'm telling you you should want to go. So when we flip that back around to authentic leadership, the most important thing to create guidance on in this arena is to help people understand what their potential is. Every single human has a unique potential. It's not one thing. And there's so much narrative around how just get these leadership skills and you'll reach your potential, right? Like you don't, if you don't know what your potential is. So if I don't know what Tracy's potential is, I can't reach that. And so one of the greatest gifts you can give somebody who you can tell is interested in leadership, right? So if you guys haven't watched my other LinkedIn Live series that I do, Permission to Do You at Work, I do it on Fridays. And last week I was talking to Jasmine Escalera, and we were talking about the idea of interests, creating an expert, right? So when I'm interested enough in a thing, I show up and I do it and I study it and I learn it and I ask questions and I do all of those things. Shawn is interested in law, so he's going to law school, right? Like, this is what we do. We demonstrate our curiosity when we have an interest in something. When people have an interest in leadership and you're paying attention, you can tell, right? You can tell they're interested in taking leadership training. They're on conversations like this. They're asking questions. They're like finding mentors who are the types of leaders they admire, right? Like, they are taking those types of steps. And those things, those are the things that I would encourage you guys to look for more than leadership skills, because leadership skills can be taught. Leadership interest can't be taught. And this is where I agree with Shawn and his concept of leaders are kind of born leaders. There's certain people who are interested in leading people. Not everyone is interested in leading people. Everyone could learn negotiation skills, right? Like, I could give you a book, you could practice it enough times that you could be a decent negotiator and not care enough about negotiating. But the people who become master negotiators are the ones that are interested and like deeply intrigued by the art of negotiation, right? So it's got to be a puzzle of that. And in order to help people reach that potential, you have to create a space where they can see their own potential. And then as the leader in that scenario, what you get to do is you get to be a mirror. You get to be their mirror. So here's the thing. We don't see ourselves the other way people see us. And that is what a great leader, a great coach, a great, I don't know, mom, right? Like, anybody who you want is in
whatever your title may be, right?
Leadership position, right? Like, this is about being able to show people their true potential and reflect back to them when they are moving the needle towards that. And their potential is related to their values, their interests, and why they want to do a thing. And so it's being able to get past the surface level stuff, right? We're interested in this like big fat part of the iceberg that's under the water, right? Like, that is where true potential lies for everybody. And nobody goes beneath the surface on their own. So this is what, even if you guys don't necessarily consider yourselves a leader today, or you don't have a position in a work environment that would say the historic definition of leader, like, every human that you interact with is working on this principle of an iceberg, right? That there's so much of us that you see, and there's so much of us that you don't. And so much so to the fact that most of the time we don't even know. Like, I don't even know. I've done a lot of personal development work, you guys. I don't even know all of the parts of me that are under the water. There's so much of it. You can go so deep, right? And being around people that create a safe space for you to do that and will love you and celebrate you in that activity because they know what you're doing is moving towards your specific goal. I want to share this quickly with you guys because it's something that like just absolutely drove me nuts. And it happened on Facebook, and I'm sure all of us have these things on Facebook. But somebody had posted in a group that they were looking for a business coach and like, don't even bother applying, like, don't even bother responding to me if haven't made $1 million because this is what I'm trying to do. And I get it conceptually, right? Like, this guy is trying to make $1 million. So he wants a coach that has made $1 million. The problem is there's really good coaches out there who have no desire to make $1 million, right? So you could be choosing not the best coach because of that, And just because that's what you want doesn't mean that's what everybody wants, right? Like, it's not everybody's goal in life to have a Ferrari. I live in Canada. Ferraris are like completely a terrible idea, right? Like, you can't drive them for most of the year. And like, the point is that when you're talking about reaching their potential, it has to be related to their potential, not society's narrative about what our potential looks like. Society's narrative about what my potential should be is completely different than my definition of what success is for me. And so my potential is based on success, the definition of success for me, not someone else's definition. So now I just kind of busted up that question a whole bunch, but it's really about creating that space for people to find their potential, not track someone against society's defined definition of potential.
And that's the key to it. And I'm glad you went that direction, because once I thought about it and started looking at it, sometimes you take retrospect of what's being asked. And I thought about the essence of the potential and how important that is, because how you so eloquently put it, the potential is always on the individual, and sustaining that or even evolving to that is always upon the individual. I know us as being athletes, we can quickly relate to that. I went to school with a lot of guys that had potential to go to the NBA, and in football, they had the potential to go to the NFL. Great careers, great athlete, freaks of nature, all of those kind of things that you want to say about an athlete. They possess those things. But somewhere across the line, so our 4 years of high school, our 4 years in college, things diminished, stuff changed. They didn't have the tenacity that they had before. Maybe they was doing it for someone else. Yeah. A lot of kids, it was a lot in growing up in the inner city. A lot of things was, we did this so our parents would, show us more love, or we would get more love when we would try to fill holes with things that wasn't going on in homes or in our lives. So it wasn't that we didn't have the potential to go on to be the greatness of what others perceived us to have, but it wasn't us. And a lot of times it's the same thing with leaders. A lot of people are thrust into these. That's why I say that it has to be that innateness in you, because you can't just thrust a leader or individual into a leader position to be taught how to lead. There have to be some qualities, and I like how you broke that up as well, because a lot of people more of the line with that, with the qualities and skills, and they're two totally separate things. Skills, as we all know, skills can be taught. So regardless of whether they're skills, they're things that's taught to you to be able to apply it to whatever craft that you're doing. But qualities are things that are innate. They're within you. So if you don't have those qualities, those are things that I can't teach you to be kind. I can't teach you to be authentic. That's why it just drives me crazy when people have authentic rooms and people have authentic clubhouse and they have authentic webinars and you can't teach authentic. You can't. And people say,
well, okay, can I rephrase this? I can't make you guys care about being authentic.
Yeah. So to me,
we can show you, we can talk about vulnerability, we can talk about values, we can talk about learning how to puzzle that together for you guys, but I can't make it important to you. So if you haven't made it important, I can't do that for you.
And that's the same thing with your potential. Yes. If it's not of importance to you, and I put some things here in the comments that I want to share with the essence of that in leaders. These are some of the qualities and characteristics of leaders, or my characteristics. This is what I typed up that I see in myself. I'm self-aware. I prioritize personal development. It's not so much as me, because a lot of times leaders think that they have to be the ones that know everything. Well, if I have a group or I have a business such as I have, it's not encompassed to me to know everything how to run the business, correct? I think the obvious stage was to get people here with their separate expertise that can help me solidify a team, and we can run the business, right? So I focus on developing others. That's the key thing to it as being leaders. I think strategic thinking, innovation, action, all those things come into play. Ethical, civil-minded. How many leaders we got that's not of those things? Just some of those. Just look at some of those that I typed in there, right? How many people that you know are in leadership positions as that's not that? And when I say the teaching authentic, I go to the straight dynamic of caring, because authenticity shows caring. So if you can be authentic with something, there's something there that says you care about how this is either received, how it's presented, how it's shown, and those are the things that creates authentic leadership, and those are only come about with the actions.
Mhm.
So when I say that, that's what I'm meaning in that, and saying it like you said, Trace. You could be taught those things, but how do you prioritize them? Do they become caring? It goes back to the potential, what Gabe says. Yes, you can be shown all of those things. I can show you everything I know, even in me teaching vulnerability. Application is key. So if you're not applying anything that you're learning, you're not growing. I don't care how many books you've read. Okay, because I get on Clubhouse all the time and people, yeah, man, I read 5 books. Okay, what are you applying it to? How is that helping you? Or are you just getting on to Clubhouse so you can drop names of authors and say, yeah, I read this book. Yeah, I just got through reading. I just read for the second time. I can't even remember the book now. I just read for the second time. I think and Grow Rich. I think it was Napoleon Hill. So I read that because there were some things in there that I had missed the first time, and when I started reading it again, or you go through stuff with the highlighter because my book is highlighted. I went back and I was like, yo, I missed this. I highlighted it, but I missed that. So those are the things that that you can't teach. Those are the things that you want to know within you.
Well, and I want to, Shawn, can you pop up your last comment again?
Yes.
Because I just want to show you guys
that one. Huh?
There's if you look at these things, right? These things, these are the things Shawn cares about.
Yes.
That's why they're part of his definition of an authentic leader, right? This is what you were just a great demonstration of this. So I wanted to show it, right?
Yeah, and I did that purposely because we're teammates.
Yeah, and it's about caring, like you said, and this is what Shawn cares about. So if you guys think about and you journal on or write it out or brainstorm or like whatever you want to call it, you write out these things like what would I like to accomplish as a leader? How do I want to show up and do that? Those are based on your beliefs about how you should do it. And so if you can create a definition similar to what Shawn does here, it helps you identify what are those things that I care about. And then you can also look at some of these things and like, what is that saying? These things are saying something about your values as well. So your values are at the heart of all of these things that come out of you. But if the connection might not be there right now, right? You might not see the connection between like, oh, if I care about developing others, like what is that about? I believe in human reaching their potential, right? Like that's a value, right? Going into life. This is why people like Shawn and I have shows like this, because that's like the thing that we are about, that we can't go through life. It would be very inauthentic for me to go through my life and not help people do this if that's what they want to do, right? Like back to the conversation of I'm not here to convince you guys to be an authentic leader. I don't have a checklist of what it looks like to be authentic, because what it looks like to be authentic looks different for every single human. And it's about finding the path for you that is right for you and feels genuine and real and true, and that you don't feel like, I know for me in a lot of my corporate leadership activities, I'll give you guys an example. So because I commented on actually Simon, to name drop one of Simon Sinek's posts the other day about play, and he had posted something about how we need to play at work. And one of the things that was so frustrating for me in my work environment was that we were forced to play a certain way. And like, that was not the way I wanted to play. One of the examples was we did like archery tag, and the team I was on was like super competitive, and I got shot with an arrow in the ribs from like point blank range. So like I had to run off of the court to the washroom because I thought I was going to vomit. That wasn't fun for me. Okay. So like incorporating play into your environment also is about finding out what play means to a specific person, not just mandating everybody to play because the CEO decides this is the way I like to play. Well, that's fine. That's the way you like to play. Go play that way. Right. But like, not every person has the same definition. Right. And so it is about figuring out what your definition is and then using that, taking that and turning that into actions. So even if, let's say I just hit my telescope with my hand. You're the CEO and you have the opportunity to give people the chance to play at work, right? Do you know how they like to play? Maybe some of them are basketball players. Maybe they want to know that they can play in their beer league basketball league and not have to work every night, right? Like that's giving them access to play. There's just so many ways to broaden the conversation here. And I wanted to bring that back in because like I said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it on every episode. And if you watch the replays, I've said it on every other episode, right? Like authentic is about being you. There's no other standard.
Yes.
You're not being measured against Tracy's standard or Carl Shawn standard or Barack Obama standard or like, I don't know, anybody else's standard, right? Like
nobody else's standard. And only people can, only you can know. Only you can know. That's the thing about authentic. And that was used to be, well, not used to be, was just so pet peevish to me that you could, and that's why I guess I go into that diatribe of teaching that and teaching that. And also, I always go back to that story that my dad told me. And I mean, I think I'm going to coin that. I'm just looking to coin that and make that copy written when he told me about the lion in the jungle. And it was no more clearer visual that I needed to see to understand the authenticness and what he was saying to me. And that was sort of like a light bulb moment. Even I think I was like 7 or 8 when he first told me that. And like I've carried that. I've even passed that down to my children in the essence of how you can identify those ones. And like it comes about with that self-awareness. I put that up before. That self-awareness. And those are the things that define me. And those are the actions that I take in leadership to define me. But like you said, there are so many more. But one thing I can say, even if they don't, somewhere along the line, they overlap because those qualities are really definition. It's how they're done, how I do it and how you do it, totally different. But when you question us, I can guarantee you our values somewhat overlap just for the systematic way of us looking at what we want to achieve. And this is where you can actually gravitate to those that call themselves leaders, or you can kind of, I wouldn't even say mimic, I don't want to use that term, but how you can definitely identify those qualities because they'll match with a lot of the values that you already care about, that's already personal with you. And though they may not do them or they may not manifest in the same way in which you do them, you'll be able to identify with them. And that's where the self-awareness come in at. And that's where those kind of things come into play at for me, because all the time I don't put my values on people. I live my own values. And this is the importance. I can't come and say the values that I grew up in the home that I was raised in and what I came to adopt as my values as an adult. Now I'm going to teach those values to you. No, we get a value system from childhood. And it's how we act on or non-act on what becomes important to us in those values, right? So we carry that, and we can't I can't give my values to Tracy. But with how she thinks and how I think, some of our values are going to overlap because we're on the same page with a lot of things of how we want to see things done. And it would be a disservice. I can't go through life doing that. And then I didn't just take this platform to do that, and Tracy as well. She's probably a witness to that as well. We didn't just get on this platform and say, okay, this is what we're going to start saying. We've been doing this through the course of our professional lives and probably as childhood, and both of us being athletes prior. We got the team, we did the huddles, we did because I was a rah-rah dude in the huddles. I was like, I was the one that got everybody hyped up. But we did those things because we really cared, and the outcomes is what it is. And when you turn those values into those actual actions, you're showing those that you're leading that you actually care. And that's synonymous with being an authentic leader. Authentic leader, whether it's however way you want to manifest it out as far as individual, the main core is that person cares about the people that they're leading. And this is what you want to see in the authentic leader.
Yeah,
Great stuff.
absolutely. And it's a good reminder too that your team, your manager, your other directors, your whoever else, your husband, your mom, your community leader, all of these people have a different set of values. So they might have, like, you might have, Carl, Shawn, and I have authenticity values that align with each other. We have different levels of authenticity values. They're mixed in different percentages with different types of values, right? Like every single person has a unique values formula for them, which means that one of the things Carl Shawn mentioned was like mimicking. And it's another thing that I don't believe in copying anybody else. My preferred goal is like, oh, nobody is doing that. Okay, great. That's my way of doing it.
That's my lane of travel.
But if you see something and you're like, I like that, and you try it and it feels so you feel really good doing it. It feels like something you would do. You can do that, right? Like that's fine. You want to have a LinkedIn live show and talk about authenticity? That's fine, right? Like we need more of them.
Absolutely.
So it's that, again, it comes down to the fact that the action isn't the thing. We're all doing the same actions, right? We're all answering our email. We're all text messaging. We're all writing social media posts. So we're all doing that. All those actions are the same, but we're doing them in our way. We're using our words. We're using our thoughts. We're using our values to drive those conversations. And that's what makes it different. That's what makes the actions different. And when it comes to leadership actions, which is what we're talking about today, the concept is the same, right? So you might show up to negotiate. You might use your leadership skill of negotiation today, but there's a unique way that you are going to do it. There's a unique way that Tracy's going to do it. There's a unique way Carl Shawn's going to do it. There's a unique way Gertrude's going to do it. A unique way Tim is going to do it, right? Like that's the point. And it's about tapping into your way of doing those things so that you can do those things with intention. And you know that when you do it, it's going to be an accurate reflection of who you are. And one of the other things that Carl Shawn mentioned was that you find the people who have similar values to you and you align with them. Do you think you can find people with similar values to you if you don't show up and show them what your values are? No, you can't. And it's also those times, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, we were talking at the beginning about how you can tap into these moments of when you feel so like authentic, so genuine, so real, so raw, so whatever. Another one of those times is when you feel attacked, right? When something is attacking me right now. What is that? What is that all about? Right? Like, look at that. Because quite often it's because I like to say something is poking at your values. Like something is happening and you're like, something is wrong here. The reason why you think something is wrong here is because it's poking up against your values. You don't believe it should be like that, right? And like, sure, there's some mindset work that you can do if it's related to something you can't control. Like I can't control if it's raining outside. Oh, raining makes me feel sad. That might be a story. But if you have, one of the things, I always use this as an example. When I was in corporate, the company I was working for wanted to target casinos for business. And I believe that people, if you want to gamble, you can gamble, but I can't, I'm in marketing. I can't get behind advertising to somebody to gamble, right? You want to gamble? Great. But I can't get behind advertising it, right? Like I can't. And when my boss asked me to like run the project, I was like, I can't. And if I had to, it would have been against my values every day, right? Like I just can't. For me, it was fine. It wasn't fine. And for another one of the account managers, it was totally fine. And that doesn't mean my values are right and that person's values are wrong. It just means that my values aren't in alignment with that activity. And really, we should find somebody whose values are in alignment with that activity because they'll do that activity better because their values are in alignment, right? So again, like you guys, let's see, we're coming full circle here with the conversation, right? Is that comfort zone, taking activities, trying things outside your comfort zone, when you try one and it feels good, it feels right, for lack of a better word, keep it. Keep doing it. You try something, it feels wrong, don't keep doing it. Even if someone who's made a lot of money or someone who has a lot of power is telling you that you should, because maybe that's right for them, and that doesn't mean that it's right for you. And when we're talking about authentic leading, again, not all leading, there's lots of other conversations going on in the leadership arena. The conversation we're having here is authentic leadership. In order for it to be authentic, it has to be a good representation of you, not a good representation of someone else.
It has to be, and that really what's the understanding has to be. It has to be understood that this authenticness is coming from you, and this has to represent you. And you hear that a lot of times, and maybe this question will come up, or maybe someone has ran across this before, because a lot of times people say, well, I can't really, and I applaud you, because sometimes our values change with circumstances. And when I say that, it's not necessarily on purpose, but what it is out of necessity. They have to change. So everyone is, and I've had people that tell me this, even ones that have that I've coached and that I've consulted, and they've said, well, I get what you're saying. I love what you're saying because I believe what you're saying. This is who I am. But necessity says that, okay, I can't really be this 100% because I need this job. Or I guess people tell you that with the quickness. It's like, yeah, because I had a guy tell me yesterday when I was talking about the vulnerability, and we were just going through, we had a conference call with him. I was just telling him some of the in-depthness of what we have to go through in order for this to really work and for you to take this on, because it's a lifestyle. It's not nothing that I'm going to teach you to do, and then 30 days you can change back. You're going to have to embrace this and move forward in this and just be empowered in it. So he was like, man, the goodness. I got on the call with him, the Zoom, and he's all rah-rah, and he's like, man, that's good. He's like, it's just one thing. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay. And then he says one thing, I'm going back in my head, okay, did I miss something I didn't drive home, something, that he didn't get? He said, no. And I asked him, I said, well, there's something really, I missed it. He said, no. He said, everything you said was on point. He's like, but I need this job. And the way that I think, I know that I won't have this job. And I was, it's really hard to stump me. I was kind of stumped because I'm at a crossroad where I want you to embrace who you are, but I don't want to jeopardize your livelihood either.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and again, like I can speak from personal experience on this one, you guys. I quit a vice presidency job without a business on the side because I wasn't allowed to say something I wanted to say. So this is where, again, like who you are, your core values, when something, so like I made a really comfortable salary with benefits and all of those things. And I had one instance, and I had a lot of little ones over the years, a lot of little infractions, right? And I think little infractions, you can kind of look away and you can be like, oh, that was, but this is good. And like, meh. But that to me, and like some people might think that that's a small thing, right? Like that might be small things. That was not a thing I was willing to accept. I couldn't accept that and feel like I could be myself going to that job. So I quit. And like, to be fair, I talked to my husband. I made sure that if I didn't get paid anything for 3 months, we'd be fine. And that's how long I thought like it might take to get a new job. And then I just started my own business instead. But it was just like, I couldn't do it. That was based on my values. So if you are in a working environment where your values are that attacked, you will leave. This is why people quit jobs, right? Like, so it's not really related to that. So if you're talking to Carl Shawn about vulnerability and you want to bring more vulnerability in your life, you see the benefits, you don't think that that's possible within your current working environment, you just have to look at how important is that to you in your working environment, right? You can practice it elsewhere, right? Like you can practice it at home, you can practice it in your community, you can practice it on LinkedIn, right? Like you can practice it in other places. There's probably even small ways you can incorporate it into a work environment that you think you
Yes,
can,
absolutely.
right? Like there's lots of opportunities there. And you, at the end of the day, make that decision, right? So like if you need that job, that's fine. Also, you probably need a job, right? Not that job. And so it's just looking at
Well,
some
that's
of
what
these,
I told him.
yeah. And
I,
that's fine. But these are the types of things. So when you talk about vulnerability, talk about authentic connections and leadership and conversations and living your values, you guys, these might indicate to you that the current working environment you are in is not the right one. That doesn't mean that today you have to quit your job. What it can show you is, one, okay, how can I incorporate some of these things into my current working environment to the ability that I am able to do that? And two, I now know that I can maybe deal with this for another like 3-4 months. So I better get on the job search wagon to try and find a company that can help give me this piece of the puzzle that I'm missing. Like I feel like I very minimally want to work for a company that's going to allow me to have my own personal brand on LinkedIn, because I'm not
that's
about to
what
be
you do.
told what I can and can't say by another human, right? Like I'm just not. And there are lots of companies who will do that, right? And now it gets to become part of your conversation when you're looking for your next place. So these things don't have to, they're not, mine was a drastic example, you guys. Like it seriously hit
No,
my values so hard. I was just like,
yeah,
I
but
quit.
yours hit, and it also encompasses the courage. And this is why I was stuck at the moment with telling them that, because I was at that point in time. It's a responsibility of me, or a responsibility that I've taken on. Now, okay, then now the advisement of what I'm about to tell you, I'm pretty sure you're hanging on,
Mhm.
because we've got to a point of where you're at the pinnacle.
Yeah.
You're at the fork in the road, and you're about to make a decision. So
Mhm.
the next thing out of my mouth is going to be really based that decision. And I'm not making that, and I told him in the essence of saying this. I'm not saying this if you choose me or you choose whoever, or wherever you go to. What I'm going to say to you next is really what it is. I said that, and you kind of like hit that on the head. The next thing I said to him, that this is a place that you're not going to stay long, regardless, because as how you're identifying with everything that I've told you, and that aligns with everything of who you are, and that's the lifestyle that you have. How long can you keep that facade?
Mhm.
How much is that weighing on you? Because we have to take that in consideration too. Because a lot of times when they're not authentic, that carries a weight,
Mhm.
and that weight carries stress, it carry health issues, it carry mental health, that carries a lot of things with it when we're not being authentic. And no, I'm not the medical doctor, but I can say from happening, and those things happening to me, when you carry things that are not truly who you are, it's just like a facade. It really just what it is, because you're not being authentic to yourself. So therefore there's a burden of trying to be someone who you're not. And
Mhm.
though it's important to you to keep the job, and it's important to you to, to have your welfare and your well-being, it's also important to you to live in happiness. And when I say that, a lot of times we're caught in that as adults, because we have obligations and we have things. And the example that you put about, it's not so necessarily extreme to the point of a lot of people have not thought about. But I think the difference is, and the turning point is that you actually took the action. But it's a lot of people that's going to, there's a lot of people that's going to wake up tomorrow and go to these jobs and feel just like you felt. Their
Mhm.
stuff is not aligning with me. It's killing me every day, but I'm going anyway, and I can't be late. So, so when you say that, no, it's not such a drastic thing, because a lot of people are playing that in their minds. And he had got to the point where I said, and my advice to him, if I can say that, was that you're going to leave that place. So whether it's with you embracing who you are, who you know that you can be, and moving forward, or either you go somewhere else to another situation, and that it becomes repetitive,
Mhm.
and you repeat the cycle
Yeah.
of not being who you are. And I think that when you decided to do that, you became authentic. You became authentic in ways that a lot of people want to be and are fearful of being, and afraid of what the outcome's going to be, because we're human beings. We always seem to like, we want to have things planned out. I think I
Mhm.
put a post in my post on that. I think I did it yesterday, and I wrote about the unexpected in the journey.
Mhm.
And we're not comfortable unless we understand, what's the next move. And all the time, you don't have the next move.
Well, and here's one of the things, because we keep talking about this weight of inauthenticity, right? And it's funny
yes,
because I
yes.
have a lot of people who ask me, like, oh my God, that must have been such a hard decision. And like, quite honestly, it was one of the easiest decisions I've ever made. And that authenticity brings with it a lightness. So, like, yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know that I was going to be able to start my own business and find clients and whatever. But I knew that anything else was going to be better than that. And so, like, that's why I felt like it was so easy for me at that point. And it was my first opportunity to take a stand for my personal brand and say, like, you know what? No,
Yeah.
I can't do that. Can other people do that? Yes, I worked for a company with more than one person. There were lots of people who were doing that. I can't do it, right? Like, I've been asked one too many times to do a thing I can't do, and therefore I have to leave. And it felt like I untied an anchor from me, and then I could just like grow and thrive. And then all of a sudden I'm looking for ways to be me and incorporate me into my work and how I do things. And like, now there's like no going back. There's no going back. And the more that people are having these conversations, the more that people are experiencing that pain of going to work and carrying that burden and realizing that that is zero required in order
Zero.
for people to do a job and get paid. Like, it just, more and more people are going to take that and quit. They're just going to quit. And they're just going to say, like, you know what? This is not, I get one life, right?
Yes.
I get one life, and I cannot. I heard my mom tell me the other day that she feels like she wasted her life. And I was just like, it almost made me cry, because one, you have 3 daughters who love you immensely, but like, I refuse for that to be what happens to me because of a job, right? Like, that is not the thing that has, the world isn't like that. The corporate working environment has been built that way, but that is not what living your life is supposed to look like. There is a way to be your authentic self at work. There are people who appreciate who you are and your authenticity. And there are people who believe that you being you and following your values and doing what's right for you in your heart is actually what is going to drive you to be a better employee. And this narrative is becoming more and more, becoming louder and louder in our society. And I'm glad that we can contribute to that, because this is not what it's supposed to be like. It's not. And it doesn't have to be. So you guys, and now we're like quite a bit over
Thank
our
you.
time
Yeah,
today.
so we're over. Great conversation, because
We
we
got
really,
into it.
yeah, so we were really into it, and we really appreciate all of those that came by. Those definitely want to see what takes place in the replay, because I know we talked about a gamut of a myriad of things that people are definitely dealing with. You can't tell me they're not. I talk to people every day, all day. It's pretty much all I do. So people are expressing these kinds of things, and there is a hunger for that. And maybe you don't always know the question, or you don't know how to ask or what to ask. But I think the best way to do is, if things are bothering you, or things are piquing you, or things are pushing you, or things are biting at you, I think you should address those things. And how you address them is it's up to you how you do them. But I think you should address them. Tracy has avenues that you address. I have avenues you can address. I got my LinkedIn at the bottom. Connect with me. This is Tracy's LinkedIn as well. Bransford, because we love to do our LinkedIn. Tracy also has her Peeps community, where she addresses a lot of these. I wouldn't necessarily say issues, but a lot of these concerns, uh, challenges. Yeah, I was going through my vocabulary, trying to see which word fit that, because I never wanted to use, because they're not issues. They're just challenges that we face. And the best thing about a challenge is that oftentimes we don't know how to overcome it. We have to work through it, and then working through it, that's when you become an overcomer. So she could definitely tell you about your peeps. Tell them about the peeps, Trace.
Well, your business peeps is a community for you to practice showing up as you authentically are.
Show up
with people to practice who you authentically are and figure out what fits and what doesn't. You want to talk about leadership skills? This is a leadership skill that not enough people have. And this is exactly what the Your Business Peeps community has been created to do. So if you guys are interested in that, and even if like, we're going to say this again and again, Carl, Shawn, and I are here to be your accountability partners on this journey, figuring out what authentic leadership looks like for you, mapping your values, turning them into leadership actions, getting in that practice, right? This is what we're here to do. So if you guys are watching the replay and you have additional questions, pop them in there, tag us. We'll come back and answer them, or heck, we'll probably do an entire episode to address it at some point.
Yes.
Thank you guys who joined us today for all your wonderful questions. They were very, very, they went deep, and that's what we're here to do.
Yes, we went deep.
But yeah, connect with us, ask us about that support, because it's none of these things happen in a silo. Like being an authentic leader doesn't happen in your little box by yourself. It happens with people, and it happens with a variety of people who are in different levels of awareness about their authenticity as well.
Absolutely.
And so it's a fun journey for those of you who are like me and Carl, Shawn, just people who are interested in people and watching people thrive and figuring out ways to help them do that, to be those people who are supporting people meeting their potential, like Gabe mentioned in his question.
Yes.
Like, let's chat. We're building a community around this, right? Like, have the conversation, get in the conversation. We really want all of us to work through this together.
Absolutely. So again, we appreciate everybody that has came by. Check out #replay. Me and Tracy will see you here on next Monday, Standard Time. So you guys, thank you all again for joining. And Tracy, have a great night. Enjoy supper. It's supper time. I'm hungry. I feel my stomach growling. You guys have a great night. See you next week.
Bye, guys.